Dudley.
And I'm Dean.
And we just want to share a little bit with you about our journey that we took to Tibet. And this was many, many years ago, right?
Yes, which was actually in celebration of our 25th wedding anniversary.
Yeah, we didn't ever have a honeymoon, so we figured we'd go on honeymoon to Tibet.
Yeah.
It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, so we had been with the Dalai Lama the year before in Tucson for a 5-day workshop on compassion. No, it was on patience, actually. Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And we were so inspired, and we knew that the Dalai Lama hadn't been in Tibet in many, many years, but that it was still possible for people to visit, and we decided to go.
Mm-hmm. And we had a beautiful tour. We were the only people in the group, so we had our own Jeep and our own guide and all the things you need to function in a foreign country.
Especially Tibet, you need to know what's going on. So that was pretty cool. We took the last flight into Tibet from Nepal before winter. There were no more flights after that. And then we just went around Lhasa and then traveled through Tibet overland to get back to Nepal. And so we stopped at different monasteries and were inspired by the scenery that we saw and the beautiful spirit of the Tibetan people.
Yeah, and getting up at 5:30 chanting with the monks, it really was a very special experience.
It's a monastery somewhere in the middle of nowhere, which was high on a hill, and you had to walk many steps up. And there were 80 monks, and they invited us to come to their morning meditation and chanting. So before that, we remember passing making the yak butter tea in the big vats.
Yeah, we looked up to where the guy was stirring the tea. Huge amount of tea.
Now, if you haven't had yak butter tea, you really missed the boat. It's very salty and it's creamy, and that's how they survive. They have yak butter, yak meat, and barley, and that is pretty much the diet because it's quite a barren land. But somehow, because of the yaks and because of their diligence, one time we were coming across farmland or an area where they were growing barley, and we heard singing. And so because we had our own driver and our own translator and guide, and we said, can we stop and video? And remember those guys out there?
Yeah, and they were thrashing the barley using yaks to trample it up, and that's how they separated out the grain from the chaff.
And the way they got the yaks to go in the circle is they were singing. They were singing to them. So we were searching for the sounds of music and that sort of thing when we were in Tibet, and that was there was women there thrashing, or they were separating the wheat from the chaff or the barley. And little children, everybody sweet and smiling and wanting to know about the Dalai Lama. It was a beautiful, we went through, these great passes, just so high up, and prayer flags flying in the breeze.
19,000 feet.
Oh, remember that guy? There's a picture in the video of him. I'm putting a peace through music button on him. And he was like, this was like as high as you get practically without climbing the big mountains, but he was so happy he had his peace through music button he got to wear. So it was pretty amazing. Very simple living. We were well accommodated. It was, nice little hotels we stayed in, but it was just so special. I remember the first hotel we stayed in Lhasa, there was, they had a solar panel thing happening out in the courtyard, remember? Mm-hmm. They were creating their own energy. And when you have so little, you're very aware of every bit of energy that you use. And I remember going into shops and they would turn on the lights for us because they didn't leave the lights on all the time, right?
Yeah.
I remember those little guys who came up to you.
Yeah. They grabbed onto my beard and made fun of it. Not made fun of it, made joy of it. And it was really wonderful watching these kids laughing and feeling my beard.
And your skin, and just, you know, looking at everything. And they did what the Dalai Lama eventually did too, which is put the beard under their chin. And
yeah.
Those are the boys. They were painting one of the monasteries. But when we first were in Lhasa, the same thing happened. People gathered around you, and they were so curious, and they were wanting to touch your hair, or, you know, beard, and everything. Unabashed, very, very open, very, you know. I loved it when we came across those monks in Lhasa that were chanting. Remember, outside of that temple?
Yeah, I took out my flute and played flute along with them. That was pretty special.
Yeah, they loved it. They loved it. It was, you know, there weren't very many Westerners who had been to Tibet at that point. And I think it might even close down after that for a while.
Yeah.
I believe you can still go now. But it was, there was that one monastery where they were blowing those big horns, remember? I mean, those guys were wearing these robes that probably had never been washed in the 40 years they'd been wearing them. It was just like, you know, but remember you showed them you played the video, the sound. They usually recorded the sound.
Yeah.
And that's how we created our album, Ascension to Tibet.
There was a lot of inspiration and feelings that came through being in Tibet, and that we translated into music when we got back to the States and created Ascension.
It is a beautiful album. Oh, and that's probably one of the most popular songs on the internet, wherever it is that Tantra Love that we did that.
Yeah, that's our most popular song.
Oh, it's one of them. But where we're, so I'm playing harp and you're playing flute, and you hear the birds. It's just the birds in the Himalayas. You know, you hear them singing and just feel that you're there. And for some reason, even after 25 or more years, that particular track is pretty popular. That was fun to discover. A surprise, you know, something you do many, many years ago, and then all of a sudden people find it and discover it, and they put it on some playlist. So Tantra Love, it was a fun song to do, a fun album to do. I really just loved being in the Himalayas. Oh, I remember I was reading my notes in my book about, you know, going to why we chose to go to Tibet, and we wanted to do an album with a mountain theme.
Cool.
And so we said, well, why don't we go to the highest mountains in the world, which was the Himalayas.
Yeah.
So we did.
We actually did not climb Mount Everest on this journey.
But we saw it.
We saw it.
Oh, and I remember somewhere around there, when I think we had stopped to see the Mount Everest, and then we looked down into a canyon, and there were these Tibetans herding their yaks, and again just singing to them and that's how they seemed to make everything happen, was through the music they were making.
Yeah.
The nature in Tibet was incredible, and that was the other thing we wanted to include on our album Ascension to Tibet. That the sounds of the waterfalls, and what other things did you audio record of the sound?
Yeah. So we caught waterfalls as we were going back to Nepal, and we would record them as when we saw them. But there weren't a lot of waterfalls because it's mostly very arid, dry country and not a lot of vegetation.
It's amazing they can eke a living out of that land. But of course then there are minerals too underground, and that's what everybody wants, so. But yeah, so the birds and the sounds that we included on the album, because it was still having nature sounds on it. And just the sounds that you hear, what we consider the nature sounds, were the children singing, and the monks chanting, and that kind of thing, and the yak herders chanting and singing to their yaks. So those were the kind of natural sounds that we included in the album Ascension to Tibet. So it's definitely a cultural experience. Amazing trip, really special for us to be in all those sacred places for that period of time, just alone. We had a very busy life, still do, but it was so special to be able to go to Tibet and honor the birthplace, homeland of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, whom we greatly respect. And since then, we've been with His Holiness, I think we've been with him 9 times. And 6 of those times we have really good quality video that we made of him. So, of course, none were in Tibet because he hasn't been to Tibet. And I don't know if he will ever go before he dies. But we wanted to bring back the treasure of the memories of that beautiful, when we were in Lhasa and we were in the Potola, remember? All the people who had come on pilgrimage to be there, climbing the stairs. There's a shot where they're all just climbing these, almost like a ladder-like stairs, and it's just like, because the Potola is on a hill anyway, and then it's very high, so you've got to have some stamina to even get to it.
Yeah, and the people were just wonderful, happy, the smile always ready. And which is interesting because they've been through so much in Tibet. And they have every reason to be despondent, but they weren't. They're not. They're going on from there and seeing others as their brothers and sisters, which allows them to accept the Chinese as for what they are.
Like a mother or brother or sister, sentient being. And we did later make a video of His Holiness the Dalai Lama in Dharamsala, where he lives. And we were in a private audience with him and 40 other women, Tara dancers, and that's why we were there. And someone asked him the question, how do you deal with how the Chinese have treated the Tibetans and taken over and been occupying them for so many years? And he went on to explain that as a Buddhist, they see everyone as a mother sentient being, or a brother, sister sentient being, someone who's closest to you.
The way to describe other being, we simply describe mother sentient being. Small tiny insect we call mother sentient being. It's good.
You have compassion for that person because they are a sentient being. And so even though there may be judgments or issues that have been perpetrated against you, you're still going to see that person as a mother sentient being or a brother sister sentient being. And so to be inspired by that kind of wisdom and philosophy is so special, and we've been so honored to kind of be in his presence and in the presence of the Tibetan people themselves. And we really continue to support autonomy for the Tibetan people in their own country, however that can happen in a peaceful way. So this was our journey on our 25th anniversary, and now we've celebrated our 51st anniversary. So who knows where we'll go next? Probably not too many places because we're home, and most people are home these days. But now we can travel through our memories and through our videos, and we welcome you to come along with us on our journey as we remember the places we've been and the people we've met in the over half a century since Dean and I have been kind of doing this adventure and happening to have video with us. So yeah, thanks for tuning in.
Yep.
And thank you for subscribing to Dean and Dudley Living Dreams. Thank you for subscribing to Soundings of the Planet. That's our music channel. And we play so many beautiful videos and all of our music, and you can listen to it for free. And then, of course, our other channel, we thank you for subscribing to Soundings Mindful Media. And that's where you're going to see our archival videos. You will see the Dalai Lama, you will see Ram Dass and Thich Nhat Hanh and people of the Hopi Prophecy, and you'll see the Jefferson Airplane and the Grateful Dead, and you can see where we've been. And you'll see our wedding. Yeah, not too many people were at our wedding because we got married in Reno along our trip across the country. And our friend Gina videoed it at the time, so that was our big event for getting married.
Yeah.
But it seems to have worked. I know some people have big weddings and they're not married a few years later, but we seem to, I guess the size of your wedding doesn't really mean if you're going to get to stay married. So somehow we were lucky. We are lucky.
Yes, we're very lucky.
We're lucky we found each other.
Found each other, and we spent time with each other, respecting each other, and appreciating each other. And that takes us far ways in terms of us being in relation.
Well, we discovered when we first met that we had similar dreams. We wanted to use our art and our media to make the world a better place, and we didn't know how that would happen or what that would involve, but because we both seemed to resonate with that idea, we were able to discover all sorts of ways to use our craft, our art, our media to support other people and share wisdom and knowledge.
For the benefit of others.
Where did we first hear that? It was Jetsun Pema, the Dalai Lama's sister, and she was at the time managing the Tibetan Children's Village, and just sort of the way this is the Dalai Lama's younger sister, and it's just somehow how they manage to deal with things, but what they do and what their purpose is, it is all for the benefit of others. And so it isn't against supporting yourself or taking care of yourself, but it's like when you do things for the benefit of others, you realize that the other is yourself, right? Then that's the...
You're included.
You're included. So we do it for the benefit of others. And you are others as well, and I am others, and somehow it all works out because we're all one. How could that be? We're all very different.
The other way.
This way, that way, and the other way.